Let's build a huge habitat with a large swimming pool for the biggest land animal on Earth, the African Savannah Elephant. Hello guys, this is Cesar Creates and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back in the Desert Adventure Park where we'll build a habitat for the African elephants. This enclosure that we are building today will include 5 elephants, we'll have 1 male and 4 females. As you guys know, the African elephants are huge animals, especially the African Savannah Elephant, which is the largest living terrestrial animal in the world. So they come with a lot of challenges when it comes to building enclosures for them. They need a lot of open space, they need huge shelters and also a big water section. So yeah, I was quite hesitant when it comes to building this habitat. I knew that I want to have the elephants in the zoo and in our African section of the Desert Adventure Park, but I was doing everything not to build it. But finally the time came and I just had to sit and do it. And I am quite happy with what I did here in this episode, but it was certainly a lot of work. I have a feeling that I am telling you guys this a lot lately, but I just don't know why I did it to myself. Like, I scheduled my videos in this order. Like, at first we had the giraffe and zebra enclosure in this zoo, then we had the wildebeest and the zebra enclosure in the Elm Hill City Zoo, which is also quite large, and after that I scheduled the elephant enclosure, so I couldn't go bigger. I just couldn't. So yeah, a lot of those big builds, and I am hoping for something smaller in the future. Because this is all a lot of work. This is another habitat that probably took me a week or so to build. Like, of course, I'm not constantly sitting there for a weekend building. I'm talking about evenings and, you know, some free times during the day, but especially evenings and weekends where I can do that stuff. So yeah, this was certainly a lot of work. So let me tell you guys now what the plan for the entire habitat is and where I got my inspiration from. As I told you guys at the very beginning, building 4 elephants come with a lot of challenges when it comes to their space requirements, but also their traversable area. This is actually the second time that I am building for the African elephants here on my channel. We already have the African elephant enclosure in the Elm Hill City Zoo. We've built this enclosure like 1.5 years ago or something like that, and what I still remember from building it is when I finished the entire build and I just, you know, put the elephants inside of the enclosure, they just couldn't use it because of their traversable area. I've just added so many different details that I just completely messed up their traversable area. They couldn't walk from one side to the enclosure to the another and so on, and this is what I had in my mind designing this enclosure, thinking about it, that I really need to, you know, from the very beginning, have that in mind, that they need those open spaces just to be able to move around. And what I did first was bring the elephant to the zoo, check what is the tightest space that it can fit in. You will see those like 2 mud walls, like narrow mud walls appearing a lot of times in this video, because this is my like measuring tool for the traversable area of the elephant. So keeping that in mind, I started to build this enclosure, and every time I added more decorations, like more rocks or anything like that, I always took this thing and I put it like in between the decorations just to check if they'll be able to use it. And in the end, when I was done building and I let the elephants inside, I only had to do several tweaks to, you know, fix, and they were able to use the entire enclosure. So definitely, if you are planning to build something more detailed for those guys, try to do something like that, because it really saved my life. And another thing that I had in mind was that if I want to do some detail details in this enclosure. If I want to add, I don't know, rocks, plants and so on, I should probably do the enclosure a lot bigger that they need at the beginning, and then, you know, adding those different things, it of course like made their usable area smaller, but it was still enough, and the entire habitat, thanks to this, looks, even though it is filled with a lot of detail, they still have a lot of open space. They have a lot of, you know, place to roam around simply and so on, but it still looks detailed, and this is I think the main trick to use when you are building for elephants. Just build bigger enclosure, fill them in with different things, and then you are making them look detailed without all the areas being detailed basically. So yeah, this was my idea when designing it, and the inspiration for this entire build, and especially the water section, that is very important. This is like a main feature of this entire habitat. I really wanted to give them a big water section. I didn't do it in the Elm Hill City Zoo, and I really regret that, because I love to see elephants playing in the water. When I was in Dubai Safari Park, this entire zoo is inspired by my visit to that zoo. I already told that million of times, so you are probably bored of me talking about this. I actually saw elephants swimming and playing in the water. So the quite uniquely shaped water area that we'll build here is totally inspired by that zoo. I just went to Google Maps and I copied it from that zoo, and also from the pictures that I took during my visit. So this was very inspired. Also the shading structure that I will build for the guests is inspired by that, and a bit the idea for the shelter will be also inspired by that zoo. And by the way, I almost forgot to tell you guys, thank you so much for the amazing response to the giraffe video, like the last video that we had in this park. This is probably the most popular episode from this zoo, so thank you guys so much for all the feedback, for the comments, for all the views. It got like 17,000 views while I'm recording this video, so it is quite a lot for my standards, for my channel, so thank you guys so much. And yeah, today I wanted to build something like a bit similar, because you guys liked the previous one, so why not build something in a similar style to it. So yeah, this was my idea for today's build. We of course started with the path for the guests. We started with the dry moat that I was creating here with the mat walls, as we always do in this zoo. We did some terraforming, keeping in mind that the elephants shouldn't have like too steep terrain. They always have those like gentle slopes in their enclosures. This is just to prevent very like unwanted accidents that could happen to the elephants. Like imagine the huge and super heavy elephant, you know, tripping and falling. This could end up really bad. So the zoos make sure that the enclosures are very like injury safe or anything like that for the elephants. At least this is what I noticed. A lot of times they have like very gentle slopes in there. They don't have any like, I don't know, cliffs or anything inside of their enclosures, and this is what I had in mind in here. And of course we focused a lot on the water section that I told you guys. This water section is really unique. It is made with the plaster pieces and the mat wall pieces on top. The plaster pieces are used where the water is, so on top we have the mat walls, and it has 3 different like openings, or 3 different entrances I should say, for the elephants to enter the water. And this was also all created using my like measurement tool, so the elephants will be able to fit in there and go to the water, and it looks so cool when they're actually like using it, like they're using those ramps to go there to swim. I also had to make sure that the water section will have the right depth for the elephants, because I wanted them to have this part when they'll be able to swim, but also a more like shallow part when they will be just able to, you know, walk around, play a bit and so on. So I also had to measure the height of the elephant, so I did that of course using the elephant model. I didn't show you that part in the video, but you need to believe me that I took this elephant and I was measuring it from all the sides, just just to get it just to get like this perfect height of water for them. And yeah, this was basically it when it comes to the water section. I of course added some, decals on the bottom of it to make it look a bit more dirty. We are building the zoo on the desert, so there is probably a lot of sand, being blown by the wind and so on. I also added something that was just my thoughts. It wasn't inspired by the Dubai Safari Park. This is the waterfall that we'll add shortly. I just thought that it may look cool. I really wanted to use my matte walls using the stalagmites that I created last time for the giraffes and zebras, so I used them in this habitat as well, and I used them next to this water section, and in there I decided to add this waterfall, and it looks amazing in the end, and I am so glad that I came up with this idea. And also I wanted to be a bit more realistic, so I added those drains on the bottom of the water section, and I also added some water overflows, I think they are called, on the exact level where the water ends, so it just overflows to those, I don't know, metal drains or anything like that. We just need to imagine that the water flows in there and it's, going into some kind of a filtration system or anything like that. I of course didn't do the entire filtration system in here, but we need to imagine that it would be somewhere like underneath this water section, or just somewhere under the ground or anything like that. So yeah, this was the water section. I just love seeing the elephants use it. Of course I added so many cinematic shots of them swimming, of their coming down those ramps to the water, coming up and so on, so you'll be able to see that in the cinematic shots by the end of the video. By the way, I also told you guys that I did a dry moat in here, and I just feel like the moats are very popular when it comes to holding elephants in zoos. I mean, what can be better for holding them? This is, very tight way of holding a very strong and large animal that could destroy any fences or anything like that. So if you have those very high concrete walls, there's no way that they will be able to escape or destroy it or anything. Elephants are very dangerous animals. If they are upset, if they are scared, if they are, spooked or anything, they can just charge at you without any thinking. So it is very important to have that in mind while designing habitats for them. So everything needs to be super secured. There's always moats, very heavily built fences, metal fences involved, and a lot of hot wire. So there's a lot you have to think about while building for those animals. As I told you guys already, a space, everything being secured and so on. That's why I was a bit more hesitant and maybe a bit scared of building this habitat, because I simply knew that it is coming and there's so much things that I need to consider while building it. If I want to do it in a slightly more realistic way, my latest habitats are getting so detailed that this is slowly catching up to me, because then we are building for an animal like that, and there's so many things to consider. And in the end, I want to release those videos, not to build those habitats for 1 month or anything like that. So definitely there could be some things that could be improved. I am totally aware of that. If you are going for this real die-hard realism and so on, especially the shelter, you'll see the shelter later in the inside part. I think it should be totally better, but this was the last thing that I did, and I was like, okay, let me just finish it and move on, because I was so tired of building this habitat for so long, because it is simply so huge. You will see that later, but yeah, I really like it. Maybe it's not my most detailed work, both because it is so huge and that the elephant simply needs a lot of space to be able to walk from one side of this enclosure to another, but in the end, as I told you guys, I still like it. I would probably like it even more if it wasn't in the exact position where it is right now, location of our map. It is because of the shadows. You guys know my struggle with the shadows in this game. You cannot simply change the position of the sun in this game, so it is always shining from one direction, so sometimes you have those really nice ray on sunshine that is just perfectly shining on your builds and making them look really detailed and nice. And sometimes, like in here, you are building in complete shadows. So everything that you've built is covered by shadows of trees or any other things and so on. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I hope that one day we'll be able to change that. I mean, choose the direction in which the sun is shining, but who knows if they will introduce that or not. It is also a struggle when you're trying to do like screenshots and I don't know, the photos of animals from the thumbnails. I'm sure that my fellow content creators know something about it, that the animals are constantly in shadows and you are trying to capture them in the best light possible, and you are simply not able to do that. So that would be amazing feature if you could, just choose the direction of the sun rays. Okay, so in the back of the habitat we'll have the barrier made out of those logs that I am working on right now, and also we'll have some hot wire just to be sure that the elephants won't be able to escape. This was inspired by different zoos. They often use those like logs for the elephants and this hot wire in the places where the elephants shouldn't just go too close to the fences. So I just went for that. I will also add here, and this is where the additional space in the habitat was very handy, because I added here a lot of rocks, a lot of different rocks using the normal tempered rocks, but also the rocks that I created myself using the stalagmite pieces, and I will add a lot of different foliage. And by the way, I almost forgot. Apparently, I am pronouncing the word foliage wrong. I don't know why, but you guys pointed it out that I shouldn't say that, so I told to myself that I would just stick to plants, not foliage. I don't know what is wrong with me. Or maybe I should say foliage, I don't know, something apparently is wrong with my pronunciation here. And thank you for pointing that out. You guys know that I am not a native English speaker. I don't use English in my everyday life. So I am still learning, and all those, lessons from you and pointing out my mistakes is also always appreciated. So thank you so much. But yeah, coming back to it, in the crevices in between the rocks, I added a lot of plants, and this was the place where I could do so, because simply the elephants, they never have too much plants in their enclosure, because they are simply eating them, they are stomping on them, so they are not growing and so on. So they often have the plants like sneaked in the enclosure, in the places where they cannot reach them. So I am adding this entire section in the back with a lot of different plants, and I will also add a very tiny hot wire fence in the front of this section, so it is all just surrounded by hot wires, so they are not able to get to that, and it still looks nice. It creates a really nice background for the entire habitat, and we can have some plants growing in there. I will also add different rocks around the entire enclosure, and I also added some rocks like around the water section to prevent the animals just simply, falling. They can play with each other, they can push each other and so on, and suddenly one of them can accidentally fall inside of the water section or anything. So this was also inspired by the Dubai Safari Park. They also had this steep edges of the water section surrounded by some rocks, and I did just that. I will also add some plants in the crevices between the rocks in the entire habitat. I will also do some tree guards and add trees in there just to give those animals some shadow. I will also add a lot of enrichment items for the animals. The elephants can use quite a lot of them. And here I need to give a huge shout out to Just Goron and his quick tricks series, because I just didn't know, I didn't think about that you can just firstly place the path inside of the enclosure, then add the enrichment item on the path and then delete the path, and that way it won't mess up the terrain that you just terraformed, that you created, and so on. Because normally when you're adding some of those enrichment items, they're just flattening the terrain around them, and by adding the paths, you prevent them doing so. So this was such a nice trick, because, you know, sometimes I am working a lot on, you know, the slopes that I want to achieve in the habitats or different, I don't know, terrain formation and so on, and then it is time to add the enrichment items, and they completely destroy all my work. So this was a nice thing to learn, so thank you so much, Goron, for this tip. One of my favorite enrichment items in Planet Zoo is the mud bath. I think it is one of the most realistic enrichment items. You also can really nicely blend it inside of your enclosures, and here I did just that. I firstly thought about adding it next to the water section, but then I decided that I want to have a small tiny water section on the other sides of the enclosure for the elephants, and this will be our mud bath. So I added it next to the rock wall that we have on the right hand side of the enclosure, and I surrounded it with different rock formations using the stalagmite pieces, and I also added some of the VFXs, so it actually looks like the water is coming out of this wall and it's like dripping, so it creates this like puddle of mud and everything in here. So it just has a reason that it is there, but because normally you don't get a huge like mud pool or anything like that in the middle of the desert, but because we have this like water dripping, it is just like you can actually think that it could be real. Okay, and while I am adding a lot of different details to this enclosure, let's talk about different things that I wanted to tell you guys about. So first of all, we have my latest video here on the channel that was something totally new for me, and I'm talking here about my wish list of the animals that I still want to see in Planet Zoo. And thank you so much for all the views. Like I am very pleasantly surprised with how popular this video was, with how many of you guys agreed with me, how many of you guys have your own lists, and so on. If you haven't watched it, definitely go and check it out if you want to see what animals I still want to see in Planet Zoo. And yeah, some of them might maybe surprise you, some of them not. I didn't include some of the animals that are just community favorites, and yeah, I got a lot of comments about that. So yeah, and I also got some different comments that were not maybe as pleasant as I thought. Like no, but basically a lot of those comments were really nice and really like you guys loved it, so thank you. But of course the animal fact police came for me a little bit in there. I got some facts wrong, and I totally admit to that. It was basically because there were 80 animals included in that video, and I did some mistakes. I wrote the script for this video using my own knowledge about the animals. Like I think 90% of that was my own knowledge. I just checked some facts and I just wrote it, and it turned out that my maybe memory is not not as good. Basically there were 4 mistakes in the video. So just to quickly clarify, I won't be making any updates on that video anymore or anything like that. I know that the blackback is not an African antelope, it is an Indian antelope. It comes from Asia. When I basically did the script for this video, I firstly grouped all the antelopes together, and then I decided to divide an animals based by the continents where they come from. So I just took out the Nile guy and I moved it to Asian animals basically, and I forgot about the poor blackback, and it just stayed in there with the other of the African not elephants, antelopes. So I just sort of forgot to move it, and I included it in the section of the African antelopes, and I know that it is not an African antelope, so sorry for that. The other thing is that I said that the Tasmanian devil is the only carnivorous marsupial in the world, and it is totally not true. It is not. There is, for example, quoll or just the opossum that I included in there is also a carnivorous marsupial. I should say that it is the biggest, not the only. I don't know why I said the only. I just had to black out or anything like that, but yeah, this was totally a mistake. What else? Oh, I totally learned that the peccary is not a pig. I thought that they are considered a pig, but like in the swine family, the peccaries and the pigs are different groups, so this was something new for me, and I included the peccary in the group with different pigs. And the last thing is that I included the footage of the white-cheeked gibbon when I was actually talking about the lark gibbon, and this was because it was so damn hard to find a nice looking high quality videos for all of those animals, the royalty free footage for all those animals, because I had to be careful with not to be copyrighted and so on. So this was a struggle. So when I found something nice for the gibbon, I just didn't looked closely enough because I got so excited that, oh, finally I have something nice for this gibbon, and it appeared that it wasn't that one. So yeah, this is also on my side. Next time I'll do a video like that, I will just make sure to check everything twice, not to make any mistakes like that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for liking this video, and if you want more, definitely let me know, because I can totally do one for the flying birds, I can do one for the exhibit animals. So it was actually a lot of fun. Maybe it was a lot of work, it was actually a lot of editing coming into that video. I was also for the first time ever writing a script for the video, so that was also something totally new for me. But from now on it should be just easier, so maybe I will do the other videos like that as well. The next thing that we need to talk about is the new DLC for Planet Zoo that I think will be coming out like really soon, probably closer to Easter time. I have no clue this time what it will be. I don't know if it will be animal pack, I don't know if it will be a scenery pack, because we lately had two scenery pack one after each other. I mean the conservation pack and the twilight pack, and then we had the grasslands pack, which was an animal pack. So I don't know if this one will be animal pack or this will be the scenery pack. No one knows it. So I am very excited to see what it will be. I hope that it will include some of the animals that I included in my wish list. I especially hope for birds, even terrestrial birds or waterfowl or water birds. So for example, I don't know, the pelicans, the ibis or anything like that doesn't need to fly or anything. So this will be so cool to have them, and more monkeys. Yeah, please, more monkeys. But yeah, we should get some news quite soon, and I will of course cover all the news on my channel. So if you want to stay up to date, definitely subscribe if you haven't already. And this is the next thing that I wanted to talk with you guys, because when I am recording this, let me check my phone quickly. We are missing only, yes, seven subscribers till 15,000 subscribers. This is just incredible. This is so amazing. I never imagined that I will be seeing such numbers on my channel. Of course, the time will come to thank you all when we'll actually get there. But if you like to help me get to 15,000 subscribers, please consider to subscribe to my channel. We are so close to this amazing milestone, and I might have something really nice planned to celebrate with you guys a bit. So yeah, maybe I will do reveal quite soon, but yeah, I have something in mind, so we will see when I will actually announce it. And when it comes to the other very exciting and positive news, the Valby City Zoo is back. I don't know if you guys saw the last episode, but it is up on the Leaders channel, so go and watch that. The editing on that video is just hilarious. Like, Leaders did such a great job with that episode. I just was laughing out loud while watching that. So you definitely don't want to miss it. And yeah, from now on, the Valby City Zoo should be like a regular thing. So we will have also some big news for that zoo very shortly. Yeah, we'll continue uploading. Unfortunately, Leader won't be building anymore. Just at least for now, he's too busy with university. I mean, I totally get that. He's also studying architecture, so this is quite a demanding like thing I think to do. I was studying like business management, and I still had a lot of work during my studies. It was so long ago, like I am so old. Yeah, I totally understand it, and there's no like hard feelings or anything. Like we didn't sign anything or any. He will still be there. He will still be in the videos, like making fun of us and so on. But for some time, he probably won't be building, and this is basically partially why the zoo was on hold for such a long time. The guys were just busy, and I was building in my other zoos. So yeah, and right now we should probably be back to our zoo and build those really nice and realistic enclosures soon. Okay, so while I was talking to you guys about all those exciting things, a lot of things changed in the habitats. So I've built a shading structure for the guests using our like typical thatch roofs thing that we do here in the zoo. But this time I decided to go a little bit more detailed, so I added a lot of those ornaments and different things that come from the African themed pack. I don't know if I can call it a pack, but they come from the base game, and we have a lot of those African decorations, so I decided to go for those, and I think it looks really nice. And I started to work on the shelter. I won't show you building the interior, but let me tell you that building the shelters for the elephants, it's not easy. I should probably design the interior first and then do the entire building, not do the building walls and then trying to squeeze in the stalls and so on for the elephants later, because it was really hard work coming up with this, how I should do it inside. And you might have seen better shelters from me, I totally admit that, but yeah, I really wanted to move on. I really wanted to finish this this habitat, because I will be also out for the weekend, out of town, so I had to finish it. I had to record, I had to do the video, so I didn't want to, spend 2 days for building the interior of the shelter. I just did it quickly and moved on. And maybe we'll go back to it one day and just add some more details to it. I will see. I also added holding pens for the elephants. I think this is very crucial when you want to build very detailed and realistic elephant enclosures, because they simply need to be, separated if something is going on. Sometimes there are some fights and so on. Those are really like dangerous animals. So also when the entire habitat is maintained, cleaned and so on, they are probably closed down in the shelter or in those holding pens, so that the keepers can be safe, cleaning their habitats and so on. So I added here 2 of the holding pens with the fence inspired by my local zoo in Gdańsk. So those are the fences that come from this zoo. Before we end this video, let me just tell you guys that we have still only 4 enclosures left in the African area of our Desert Adventure Park. One of them is really tiny, 2 are like medium sized, and 1 is large again. So after that we'll move on to different sections, and before that I will definitely do like a final tour of the African section of the Desert Adventure Park. But this is so exciting that we are finally are being so close to finishing it, and I cannot wait for that. Okay guys, this is all that I have for you in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give this video a big thumbs up down below if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video, and leave me a nice comment down below if you enjoyed the video. If you like to support the channel a little bit extra, you can do it with the join button down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!